Hey guys, welcome to another reading. This one was highly requested by a few of you guys. It's going to be a mystery reading. So whatever needs to come through is going to be able to come through. We're not going to limit this reading to one specific topic. It could be about literally anything. So we're keeping that door open. Today we have a selection of different paintings for you to choose from. So if you're new to this channel, welcome. I'm so happy to have you. And basically you are going to see which of these paintings is sticking out to you, calling your name, drawing your attention in towards it. And then as soon as you make up your mind, just scroll down to the timestamps in the comments and the description and jump right into your pile. By the way, I always recommend that you should choose your pile based on the energy that is calling to you, magnetizing to you, not necessarily the painting you find the prettiest or the most beautiful, but the one that energy just seems to pull you in and call to you. That's how you will decide what pile is right for you and get the right message for you. By the way, if you like how I read tarot and you want to see more of it, then be sure to head to my Patreon. I just posted a reading all about what people fantasize about you. So that's a fun, spicy, sexy reading. Before that, I posted one all about what you're carrying with you from past lifetimes. That's a very deep spiritual reading. And before that, another spicy one all about what makes you sexy. But there are over 85 exclusive readings you'll only get on Patreon, readings about money, love, career, friends, family, past lives, spirituality, personality. There's so many different topics we cover over on Patreon, and you also get early and ad-free access to all my YouTube videos. So if that sounds, oh, you also get early. Did I mention that already? Am I repeating myself? But anyway, I post my YouTube videos over there first, so you get to be the first to watch them. We also vote on new topics, and you guys get to suggest them. So there's a lot to offer over on Patreon. If you're interested in signing up, head to the link underneath the timestamps in the comments and the description and join me over on Patreon. Also, if you're interested in booking a private session with me, you can do that via my website, briarrosetarot.com. Whether you want to book a half-hour session, a full hour-long session, whether you want me to pull tarot for you, read your astrology, channel for you, whether you want it to be pre-recorded or live, you get to really customize your session so that it's right for you. If you're interested in a slot with me, head to my website, briarrosetarot.com, and the link for that is in my description. So that's about all I have to say, guys. If you need more time to decide, you can totally feel free to rewind, pause, and take as much time as you need, but we're going to go ahead and jump into pile one. Hey pile one, welcome to your reading. So let's get into your cards and see what mystery message we have for you today. So we're going to start off with these cards. What mystery message do we have for pile number one today? Commitment, okay. Golden Palace. Come together. Okay. Is this turning into a love reading? What is happening? This is a mystery reading, so, you know, it could be whatever topic Spirit wants to bring through. And Mountain. Okay. So I feel like there's a message right off the bat that almost like life can be hard. Things in life can be hard. And sometimes when we are taking any kind of path, be it a relationship, be it a career thing we're trying to do or something we're trying to accomplish, that there's going to be hard times and hard moments. And that doesn't necessarily mean that it's not for you. I think sometimes we can have a lot of discourse with like, it should be totally easy, or I should never have any problems, and that's how I'll know it's for me. But I think sometimes when you're trying to manifest, when you're trying to do something, yes, there is going to be hardship, and yes, there is going to be difficulty, and it's kind of sometimes up to us to figure out how to persevere and how to get through that. Sometimes it can feel better in the moment to say like, well, I'm not tolerating this, or I deserve better with blah, 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 whatever the case may be. And sometimes we do deserve better. So it's important to listen to your intuition and listen to like what your heart is telling you about a situation. But I find that sometimes also that discourse can kind of take away from like the reality of what we know. And this is why I always say intuition above everything. It's kind of like, someone can tell you Maybe you have a great job that has a lot of potential and it's your passion, and maybe it's a startup and you're not getting paid that much. And one of your friends goes on to lecture about they should be paying you more, and I can't believe you don't take lunch breaks. But you really feel like there's so much belief in this company, you love your boss, you feel fulfilled. Then if you allow them to like get inside your head and tell you, oh my gosh, you're being treated badly at this job and you need to quit, and you listen to that, then that could take you away from a really valuable opportunity. I'm not saying tolerate like bad working conditions, obviously, but sometimes maybe there's something we have to go through. Maybe there's something we have to experience. Maybe there's something there that we don't even really know yet. And it's important to give ourselves the full shot. Let it be, let it play out, let it be what it's going to be, because I always think the worst thing you can do is to step out of a situation too early, like whether it's a karmic situation, whether it's a lesson that we're supposed to learn, or whether it's going to be a massive blessing. A lot of times that whatever it is, lesson, blessing, soul growth, whatever's supposed to happen out of that can only happen when we allow the situation to fully play out. And I find as well that when a situation is often like fully done in my life, spirit will just remove it. Like I won't even have an option of being like, oh, should I leave? Should I stay? Should I talk to this person? Should I not? It's just kind of like made for me, and that thing just kind of falls out effortlessly. So I think sometimes, whatever this situation may be, there's that instinct we all have to kind of like get into a tizzy and be like, wow, I'm not tolerating this, or this is messed up, or whatever. And again, you want to make sure, of course, you're being treated with like basic dignity. Like if you're at a workplace and they're not paying you, you're not allowed to take a bathroom break or something, they're shouting at you, then absolutely listen to that and leave. But also sometimes maybe there's something more in that situation that, again, needs to be played out, even if it's karmic, even if it's you just need to learn some kind of a soul lesson. And sometimes I feel like, yeah, those situations that are gonna work out or that are going to contain some magic in them, they're not always sunshine and roses the whole time. Sometimes they go through hard times, they go through dips, they go through lows. I think most of the people who have been married like the longest, they'll say that they think the reason why they stayed married is because both of them were willing to do the work at different times. So when one would be feeling like, I can't do this anymore, this marriage is too hard or whatever, the other was willing to pick up the slack. And and vice versa, when the other was going through a low point, the other one was willing to stick it out and kind of like have that perseverance. And I really think that makes sense to me. And it's only when both sides are like, I'm done, I'm not gonna do this, that everything kind of falls apart. And I feel like, yeah, whatever this message is maybe telling you that it's important to give whatever this is its full shot. So whether it's career, whether it's relationship, allowing things to be what they're going to be, playing it as it lays, so to speak, is going to be really important for you. But let's get into some tarot as well and see what the tarot says for pile number 1. Let me straighten those. Okay. What messages do we have for pile number 1 in this mystery reading, Spirit? We got the 6 of Pentacles. Okay. What message do you have for pile number 1 in this reading? The Wheel of Fortune. Okay. Justice. Ace of Pentacles. Let's get one more card. The Death card. Interesting. I actually want to pull like 2 more cards just to clarify. What other messages do we have? Clarify the Death card, I guess. Ten of Pentacles. It's interesting we have so many Pentacles cards because, again, speaking of hard work, The Pentacles definitely show that willingness to work and really talk about commitment and really talk about like sticking it out. And we have a ton of different Pentacles, from the Ace all the way to the Ten of Pentacles, Six of Pentacles. There definitely is that energy of like persevering, sticking it out, and kind of like the rewards and the benefits we get from hard work. And how also, like, I think the Pentacles really talk about how life and accomplishing something, it's not always this linear, beautiful path that we may like to think it is, where everything is super easy and it's just like this beautiful yellow brick road and we just have to walk down it and it's going to be super fun. Sometimes it's hard, and sometimes it's also really boring. It involves doing that soul work. It involves sticking it out. It involves a lot of patience. It involves pushing ourselves outside of our comfort zone, maybe outside of our own traumas, outside of our own like systems that we have in our mind, you know, the way we view the world, or our own kind of like traumas and habits and all those things. And I feel like the Pentacles really encourage us and remind us that like life or any kind of big accomplishment, because you do see a lot of success and happiness happening with the Ten of Pentacles and with the Nine of Pentacles and kind of the higher numbered Pentacle cards. But a lot of the Pentacles are pretty boring leading up to that. And there's a stagnancy, there's not a lot of excitement. And again, I feel like there's that reminder that when you want to accomplish something in life, when you want to go somewhere in life, sometimes it's not just going to be all easy. Sometimes there's highs, sometimes there's lows, sometimes there's ups and downs, peaks and valleys. And going through a valley doesn't mean that, oh my gosh, there's no point to this journey and I shouldn't even be on it, and what am I doing with myself? Sometimes it's just what you have to pass through in order to get there. Like, it's like if you've ever taken a road trip through America, you pass through a lot of really boring stretches of like countryside with nothing, or parts of the desert where there's like not a gas station for, you know, hundreds of miles. And you could feel like, well, what am I even doing? Like this really sucks. And then as soon as you pass through those, there's amazing monuments, there's beautiful forests and national parks and really cool roadside attractions, but it's kind of like a mix, you know, it's not all just amazing 24/7. Sometimes you pass through areas that you're just like, oh my God, I can't see any more flat, boring terrain, you know. But you accept that that's part of the journey, and that if you want to go to like Los Angeles, you know, from the East Coast, that you're just gonna have to accept that. And if you want to get to somewhere cool, then they're maybe passing through like a bad neighborhood or a boring area or something that's just really ugly, and doesn't mean that you're going to stay stuck there forever. And I think sometimes we need to remind ourselves of that. Sometimes when it's like when things get tough in whatever, whether it's a relationship, whether it is our work, whatever it is, sometimes we really need to just have the patience to do the work ourselves. Sometimes that even involves forgiving. I think sometimes also like we can get really obsessed with how something feels, and the Pentacles is also that reminder to step away from feeling and more into like I said, what we committed to, what we agreed to. So even though it may feel bad in the moment, having that kind of logical mindset, having that kind of thought process of like, okay, I'm here now, but this is where I'm headed and this is what I committed to, instead of allowing our emotions to dictate everything, instead of allowing our emotions to kind of overwhelm us and to dictate what's going on, because sometimes our feelings aren't fully accurate, you know. Sometimes we get triggered in a relationship, but we have abandonment issues from our parents, or sometimes we get really dejected in our career, but everything's actually going fine and we feel really stuck and stagnant, but actually we're doing pretty well, and we just kind of are letting our emotions get the best of us. I mean, all the girls will know how much your emotions can like fluctuate around your period, and how suddenly you're just so annoyed with everything, and then you get your period and you're like, oh, okay, yeah, never mind, I'm not upset about that. Or sometimes people get those emotions during their period. I always kind of have PMS before my period and get really like annoyed easily before my period, and then by the time my period comes, I'm like chill again. But my point is that emotions aren't always the best predictor. Sometimes you can feel bad about a situation. I mean, we've all had, I think, experiences like that, right? Where maybe you think you really aced a test and then you get it back and you completely bombed, or you thought you did so good on a presentation at school and then you get the results and it's like, oh, that sucked. Or you go on a date and you think like, wow, that was a great date and I did really great. And then the person never calls you. Or vice versa, you go on a date and you think that was the worst date ever. And then the person is obsessed with you and like keeps calling. Or you think I did horrible on that test, on that paper, on that presentation, like that was freaking awful. And then you get like an A plus. My point is that sometimes we're reading a situation, we think we know the situation, but we might not want to rely 100% on how we feel. That's not to say not listening to our intuition, which is usually actually most of the time doesn't have a lot of emotion attached to it. It doesn't have a strong feeling. Whenever we're feeling anxious, whenever we have like this dread, this panic, this negative sadness, a lot of times that's not intuition, because I can say that the funny thing is that the more you get into spiritual work, the more you realize that spirit really doesn't have fixed attached outcomes to things. So like even the worst thing in the world, spirit is like, yeah, that's cool, because spirit understands that like as souls, we're kind of undefeatable, right? Like we're always going to be protected, be okay, because our soul is not touchable. We can't damage our soul. We can't hurt our soul. Our soul is its own like flawless entity that exists outside of this human experience and will continue on even after we die. So with that being said, from like spirit's perspective, there's really no reason to freak out about even the most horrible things on the planet, let alone something that is super small and like not such a big deal. So yeah, I feel like whenever we're in a place of panic, anxiety, sadness, whatever, it's often coming from that place of emotion. It's not coming from spirit. It's not coming from our higher self. It's coming from our human self that is afraid of being hurt and is afraid of pain and does have whatever childhood trauma or whatever abandonment issues or whatever fears. And so sometimes welcoming in, whether this situation does need to end with this death card coming in, or whether we're being called to really stick it out, I feel like, of course, that decision is up to you guys for whatever this is. But if it's coming from a place of like extreme emotion, a lot of times it's not necessarily the guiding light we should be using to make our decisions from. Also, with this justice card, there is that reminder that spirit keeps the Akashic records. Spirit sees everything. I think sometimes also when it comes to like career, relationships, whatever, sometimes we feel the need to like stand up for something. Like it's like we have to make a stand. We have to say that when it comes to this career, I'm not going to be treated like this, and I'm going to teach this boss a lesson. So I'm going to resign and not apply for new jobs. I'm just going to give my 2 weeks notice right now, and I'm going to teach them a lesson. And I honestly think that energy of like, let me teach this person a lesson is one of the stupidest energies we can be in, because that person is on their own journey and they probably had other lessons given to them. And if they haven't learned it, then maybe there's some resistance inside of them, but that's nothing for us to even be able to fix. Like, think about it. Like, people go to therapists for years and years and years and still can't grow or still can't move past some bad habits. So you doing some kind of a move like last minute or trying to teach them something, it's probably not even going to be effective. And I think sometimes when we're acting out of that place of like, I have to stand up for myself, like I used to find when I would drive, if someone like cut me off or if someone did something really crazy, there was that part of me that was like, I should teach them a lesson. I should cut them off, or I should, they flicked me off, I should flick them off. And I would wonder, why did that make me so mad? And it was totally the fact of like wanting them to know what they did is wrong. But what I realized is they're on their own journey. And also any karma that they have to go through, that's karma they're accumulating on their Akashic records that they'll have to deal with in either future lifetimes, this lifetime, at their end of life review. That's going to be their karma that they have to process. That's going to be their lesson or their pain that they have to go through. And spirit has that covered. So with that being said, I don't need to like take that on as something that should fuel any of my motivations, because honestly, my time is way too valuable. Again, think of how many people go to therapists and pay them like 300 a session, you know, or 200 a session, or $150 a session, to try to grow, to try to have some soul work and move forward and unpack certain characteristics. Think of how much a therapist or a psychiatrist or whoever gets paid, and then think about the fact that you're essentially doing like unpaid labor for them, trying to teach them something, like in a way that will take out any motivation you have to do that. And sometimes the meanest thing you can do is just be like, yeah, that's fine, and leave someone to mire in their dysfunction. But I feel like for you guys, if there's any kind of decision you're making from a place of like, I need to teach this person, they need to learn, they need to realize, just understand that that is not your job. It's not up to you to teach anyone anything, and they're on their own soul growth, soul mission. So the only thing for you to be questioning is what is right for you, how a situation makes you feel, how a situation resonates in your heart and with your intuition, instead of how is this person going to take it, or what are they doing, or if they would just change, if they would just do this differently, then that would be great, and then I could be happy. It's like, I think the only thing we can do is take situations as they are and kind of, again, give it to spirit. And if something does need to be changed in them, then also I think that's something spirit will take on and change. And spirit will bring it up over and over and over and over for them until they manage to work through that. But it's nothing for us to like think about or even worry about. All we should be thinking about for ourselves is what makes me happy, what resonates with me joyfully, what feels like it resonates on my path, and where do I feel spirit calling me to go. So let me get some more cards for you. Pile number one. What messages do we have for pile number one? Horseman, Herald of Change. Okay. Sky Dancers, Surrender. Winter's Dream, Gestation Period. Benefactor, Grace and Generosity. And let's get one more for pile one. Whale Song, Resonating. Okay, so yeah, with the Death card, with the Horseman, Herald of Change, there may be things ending in your life or things that you are being called to kind of release and let go of. So this could be about commitment. It could be about relationships. I feel like there's not a clear message coming through about like stay with this situation or leave it behind. So unfortunately, I know sometimes we really want that clear message of like, okay, leave or stay, whatever. But I don't feel like I'm getting that clear message. I feel like some of you guys are being called that you're going to have to listen to yourself, but whatever decision you make, it's going to turn out okay. I just think that the best decision you can make is the one for you, not for anyone else. Again, if we're making a decision to leave because we want to teach someone something, or if we're making a decision to quit our job because I'm going to stand up for the union or like whatever, I'm going to make a stand about like, I don't know, something with politics or with like worker rights. I think, again, there's a time and a place for that. And of course, you can make incredible change. And I'm not saying that's a bad thing. But in general, I think we have to do what's right for ourselves, what's best for us. And the decision we should make should be 100% the one that feels in alignment with us, instead of thinking about anyone else's reaction, anyone else's feelings about it, what anyone else wants, but instead thinking about how can I make my life better? How can I make decisions that honor myself, make myself feel good, make myself feel happy and aligned and good and beautiful and respected and all those things. And how can I choose a life that is in alignment with that? And if this is not in alignment with that, then I will release and surrender. And if it is in alignment with that, even if there's some difficulty, even if there's some frustrating things, but it still resonates with me as something I want, something that brings me joy and fulfillment, then I'm going to be willing to take on some of the pain that may come with that. Because unfortunately, everything in life has two sides. Everything is yin yang. Everything has good points, bad points. Everything is going to have flaws. Nothing is perfect. So yeah, I think what we have to really do is kind of be our own benefactor and kind of think about, what kind of a life am I trying to build? What kind of choices am I trying to make for myself? And how can I make those decisions to make myself the happiest and to make myself feel respected and good and happy and satisfied? Yeah, let me get some astrology dice for you. Pile number 1. What messages do we have for this mystery reading for pile 1? So we got the 3rd house, Leo, and the North Node. So yeah, there is a fated quality to all of this. And for a lot of you guys, this situation that you're in, it may feel like it's come into your life on some fated, random, like came out of nowhere situation. And it may also feel like it's there to teach you a lesson, because often those nodal aspects, whether something is coming from the South Node, something is coming from the North Node, whether there's aspects to that, if you were to run a synastry chart with like you and the company or you and the person, often those nodal connections are there to teach us some kind of a soul lesson, either to teach us to leave an energy behind or to teach us to welcome in a new energy. And also, this is the message, is that sometimes when things are triggering or upsetting, we tend to think this is wrong. This is, this is just bad because I'm upset and I feel hurt. But sometimes the best things in life are triggering. And sometimes the biggest soul growth comes from things that are painful. Sometimes the biggest lessons we need to learn are from those people that just get under our skin, or those people that just hit different and resonate with us differently and just seem to press every button, or just everything they do, we feel like a live wire. They irritate us, or they do something that's painful. And sometimes that's up to us to question, why do I feel so drawn to this person? Or is there a reason? Is this person coming in from another lifetime? Did I make a soul contract with them to learn certain things? Because if we did, then that's really powerful. And we don't necessarily want to step out of that. I know sometimes it can suck to go through it. It can suck to have that feeling that, like I said, we're irritated all the time, or someone just is like getting under our skin. Of course, that can be annoying, but also it's such a powerful soul growth opportunity. And whenever we feel those connections that just kind of like hit us deep in the heart, sometimes that is a powerful gift to move us through a soul lesson that has plagued us from lifetimes. And that's why I say it's not always something to run away from. It's not always something to panic or think, oh, this is a bad sign, I shouldn't be with this person. Maybe just let things play out and be whatever they're going to be, whatever they're meant to be, and allow whatever growth that needs to happen from that. Also, we have Leo, and Leo is a bit of a self-centered sign, but not a bad thing. And I always talk about how the earth does rotate around Leos, because Leo is the sun. And so, yeah, I think with Leo coming through, again, there's that message to prioritize yourself. Don't necessarily listen to what your friends tell you or what someone else has to say. Again, whether this is a situation with a company, with a person, with a friend, only you can hear the voice inside of yourself. Only you can hear the messages Spirit has for you. Only you can know whether something resonates with you deeply in your spirit as a good thing or as a bad thing. Or maybe not even good or bad. We don't need to put those labels on it. But is this a part of my soul journey? Is this important to me? Is there something there for me to learn from and grow from? And am I in this situation for a reason? And if I am, then how can I kind of alchemize, move through it, be mature about it, etc. But whether you want to stay in that situation, I think that decision should be entirely up to you. You shouldn't necessarily give your power away to anyone else to let them make decisions for you. Instead, you want to think about what resonates on your journey and what resonates with your heart and what makes you feel like you are in alignment with your fate, your destiny, and the lessons you signed up for when you were on the other side. Speaking of the Akashic Records. Then we have the 3rd house, Gemini. This is a communication house. It also deals with short-term travel. I feel like for you guys, there's a message that maybe there's a need for communication or even inner communication. I think sometimes, again, whenever we're sometimes deciding about something, we can get into kind of a frenzy or a tizzy or just be super emotional, super watery. And water doesn't really, in my opinion, always align with communication super well. Like that's why, Mercury is debilitated in Pisces, because I think water is so intuitive. And actually, I don't associate intuition with like Mercury and kind of like communication. I associate it more with Neptune, which is kind of confusing and hazy, and same with the moon, like very hazy. And so sometimes it's hard to even verbalize what we're feeling or what our intuition is telling us. But for you guys, it may be helpful to really jot down some notes, journal something out, or talk to someone about it, or talk to whatever this is, this person, a boss, whatever is going on in this. It may sometimes be helpful just to sit down and talk it through. Sometimes we're in a situation where we have a lot of pride. We don't want to reach out. We don't want to say our needs. We don't want to communicate at all. But actually that can sometimes be the best thing. And we might find that if we're willing to communicate and willing to be open, that the person is more than happy to meet our needs or meet us halfway or make adjustments to make us more fulfilled. So yeah, I feel like for you guys, there's just that message that maybe communication, maybe a little back and forth would actually be a really good thing. So yeah, that is what I have for you, pile one. I really hope you guys enjoyed. If you did, please let me know down in the comments, and make sure to subscribe and like this video. And if you want to see more of my content, head on over to my Patreon. I just posted a reading all about what people fantasize about you. So that one is a really juicy, spicy one. There's lots of other readings over there, over 85 exclusive readings. I also posted one all about your sexiest quality, as well as what you're carrying with you from past lifetimes. That might definitely apply to you guys, since it feels like there's past life like nodal situations happening for you. But there are so many readings. There's spiritual readings, there's love readings, money, career, etc., 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 every topic under the sun. And as soon as you sign up, you also get early and ad-free access to my YouTube videos. So they always get posted over there first, usually quite early. And so yeah, there's also, we do a lot of polls. It's very interactive. You guys get to select new topics and vote for new topics over there. If all that sounds good to you and you're interested in signing up, head to the link underneath the timestamps in my description and the comments to join me over on Patreon. Also, if you're interested in booking a private one-on-one session with me, you can do that at my website, briarrosetarot.com. You can book a half-hour session or a full hour-long session with me, have me pull tarot for you, read your astrology, channel for you, get a pre-recorded reading or a live reading. You get to really choose what you want out of your session. So if you're interested in that, head to the link in my description for briarrosetarot.com. So thank you so much for watching, guys. I'm sending you so much love and light, and I will see you again very soon in another reading. Take care, guys. Bye. Hey, pile two, welcome to your reading. So let's get into your cards and get your mystery message for you. What does pile number two need to hear? So we got Ghostlands, Rock Bottom, Unexpected Visitors, Talisman, and Stormfields. Okay, so let's spread these out, arrange these a little bit. I feel like some of you guys may be thinking of people from your past, or almost like reminiscing about someone from your past, or maybe someone is thinking of you from the past. Someone may have you on their mind. This could be like an ex, old situationship, twin flame, soulmate, whatever. I almost feel like there's a message coming through right off the bat that some of that is circumstantial, like where you're at in your life is bringing up feelings of this old person or making you more energetically accessible to them, is what I'm hearing. They may be going through something in their life that reminds them of you, and now they're thinking of you all the time. And I feel like there's a message that you're in the right place and that things are working out for you, and that some of these things did need to be left behind. And also for some of you guys, it feels like with that connection though, it's almost like, at least what's coming up for me is I find when there are situations that I can't stop thinking about, or that I think about a lot after the fact, it's maybe because I bailed out early and there's kind of like unfinished business, karmically speaking. So like, sometimes I didn't let a situation completely play out to the end. So sometimes I maybe was like, you know what, screw this. I'm not going to get treated this way, or whatever was going on in my head, where I was like, yeah, I'm putting this situation behind me. And there was still something that needed to happen. It was almost like you bail out early. You know, it's like if you're parachuting, you have to go up to a certain height. You can't jump early and then have like a successful, um, uh, what is it? Skydiving experience. You have to wait until you are a certain number of thousands of feet above the earth, and it's, you know, relatively precise. And if you were like, you know what, I just don't want to wait, I'm just going to go now and jump out after a couple hundred feet, then there's not enough room for the parachute to like safely expand. So you've got to be patient and you've got to allow things to play out. And I find that sometimes when there's like psychological discomfort to a certain situation, maybe I'm like the situation's triggering me or it's really upsetting, and so I end it and I, you know, put a stop to things. But it's almost like that's why that situation continues to play on me, because spirit was like, oh no, this isn't done, like we still have stuff we're trying to teach you with this, so I'm just going to put this in your mind over and over. And one of my favorite jokes by Joel Osteen, and it always makes me laugh so hard, his jokes are so funny to me, which is so bizarre because I don't like most comedians, but his jokes really make me laugh, maybe because we have the same sun moon. But he always tells this joke, and it's spiritual, about how like the good news is if you don't pass the test the first time, you get to take it again and again and again. And so I don't know, to me that's so funny because that's like the last thing we want to hear, right? Like, of course we're like, I don't want to get tested this way again. I don't ever want to have to deal with this lesson, this pain again. But that's the thing, is you kind of got to play it out. You kind of got to take it. And you know, it's a very Saturnian thing, the planet of karma. A lot of times too, like when there are situations where we feel a deep connection with someone, something feels fated, there may be Saturn aspects when it comes to synastry, or South Node aspects, and that can really talk about a fated karmic connection. And of course, Saturn is the planet of karma, and not exactly one that people are super thrilled when they have like a really strong Saturn transit, Saturn transiting over the sun, Saturn aspecting transiting over the ascendant or the moon, or a Saturn return. No one's like, yay! Although I will say Saturn transiting through my first house has been my favorite transit so far, which maybe I'm crazy, but it's taught me so much. And that's the thing, is sometimes being triggered, sometimes getting upset, sometimes feeling like this person just lights you up in a way that maybe is very unpleasant, but like just, ugh, they just have this effect on you. It's not always a bad thing. It can definitely be South Node. It can definitely be past life. It can definitely mean you had another entanglement with them in another lifetime. And it doesn't necessarily mean it's bad. It could be that you didn't play out that karma in a past life, so now you get to do it again. Now this person has come in to trigger you. And oftentimes these kind of connections come in when you're at a place in your life where maybe everything else is peaceful, everything else is good, you feel like you did a lot of soul growth, and then spirit is like, oh, it's kind of like that pop quiz you get in class when, you know, everything was going great and you had like a really fun week and the teacher lets you watch movies every day, and then they do a pop quiz just to make sure you've been actually doing the homework, you know? And yeah, I feel like actually that's the thing with Saturn, is as hard as it is to go through these things, there are so many great lessons that we learn. And I can say, having said that my favorite transit has been Saturn transiting through my first house, that really no one teaches you as much as Saturn. And even though it was painful to have Saturn, because I have a really long first house, so it's been there for a while now, and even though it's still there, even though it's been painful, I feel like all the things that conjured up in me, all the pain, all the like hard feelings, and the like, oh my God, panic and difficulty and pain it brought up, all those things were so necessary. There were situations that I needed to take a look at. And it's funny, Neptune transited out of my first house at the same time as Saturn transited into it. So it was like a double whammy. It was like I had rose-colored glasses on, it's Neptune making everything look beautiful and glamorous and fun, and then Neptune leaving, and then Saturn coming in, which is like the harshest teacher. So it was like I suddenly realized, oh my God, I've been like, I need to change this, and things I thought like, oh, that's fine. Yeah, it's kind of not great, but it'll be fine. It's going to work out. I suddenly was like, oh my God, I need to fix this. I need to change that. And I started really kind of buckling down and getting more serious about certain things. And actually, I think that was a huge benefit for me. And a really good thing I'm grateful for. But at the time, you know, of course it's painful. And sometimes I think with certain situations, there's a reason why they're meant to trigger us. There's a reason why it's painful or it sucks or it's hard. It's not because spirit is doing it against us or to hurt us or to harm us or because I just want to mess your life up, but because maybe there's something we need to take a look at. Maybe there's something in our life that needs to be addressed. And sometimes that can come in the form of a hard life experience, a kind of karmic connection with a person, someone that triggers us, someone that upsets us. It doesn't necessarily, again, mean that it's a bad thing or mean that it's something that is like a red flag and oh my god, it's so toxic. Sometimes just because a situation is hard doesn't mean it's like it has to leave and it's the worst thing ever. That's just the nature of certain things. Like, you know, when you go to class and you have a really hard teacher and they're like making you really study hard and you're having so much homework, you wouldn't say like, this is toxic and I can't deal with it. You would just be like, okay, yeah, I have to study really hard in this class, but I'm learning a lot. I'm going to probably do really well on all the standardized tests. I'm preparing myself, and you would understand that that's part of the process. And so sometimes I think even those difficult situations that come in our life, they're teaching us something, and there's some reason for it to play out. There's some lesson in there that if we're brave enough to be willing to go along with it, we will see that in the end. And I also feel like for you guys, maybe this is someone from your past really thinking of you, or you thinking of someone from your past. And I am feeling the message that, you know, I also find that once a situation ends, it's kind of hard to go back to it. You know, if you hop out of a lesson, if you bail out early, you know, I don't even know if there's a point in like contacting that person again and trying to pick things back up. I mean, use your intuition. There's no set formula. So if you're like, yeah, I really want to get into this relationship again and this person keeps calling me, then, you know, and you feel called to that and you feel like there's something still there that needs to energetically play out, then go for it. But also if things are fine and you don't really feel the need and you're like, yeah, that's kind of in my past, then I don't necessarily know that this is a situation you guys need to go back to, because I also feel like sometimes when things do trigger us in our life, we tend to reach for what's energetically familiar, whether that's an ex, whether that's a twin flame, whether that's like a family member. But sometimes we might think of like an ex just because we're going through a lot at work and that person felt like they really understood us, so let me think of them. It doesn't necessarily mean that person needs to be back in our life. You know what I mean? Sometimes it can almost be like a crutch. Let me reach out on the astral plane to this person because they're safe and I feel protected with them. And also that can be because we're too afraid to like really step into life. Sometimes we focus on things from our past because that feels safe. It's funny because the moon in astrology rules over like memory, the past, and it also rules over the home. It's Cancer. It's the fourth house of where we feel safety. So there's a real sense of safety and kind of like peace within reaching out into the past, because it's not something we have to worry about messing up. Like I can say, me as a Pisces, someone who's very indecisive, I hate that moment when like it's at a restaurant and you're deciding between two options and you have to pick and you feel this pressure of like, I don't know, the pasta or the burger, and you're kind of freaking out. And I think that's why we often fall into routine. Like it's hard enough making a decision about like whether to eat pasta or a burger, right? Let alone those big life decisions. So sometimes it can feel better just to kind of like hermit ourselves back into what we're familiar with, go back to that ex that we already know what's wrong with them, instead of like trying to date someone new and you don't know what's going to happen and having to make those decisions and having to have those tough conversations that happen in relationships. Sometimes it's like, I don't even know how to handle this. Like, I don't know what to say to you, or I don't know how to deal with this conflict. So let me go back to this ex, even though it was toxic, because we had our arguments down pat and they would always scream at me and then I would always storm off. And even though it was like really dysfunctional, I know what's going to work with that. Or maybe going back to being alone, even being in hermit mode, because at least I'm familiar with that. At least I know what to expect. And there's none of that fear of making the wrong decision, or what if I order wrong, like in the restaurant, let alone what if I mess up my life and ruin this relationship. So I feel like for you guys, you're almost being called that if you can shore up other areas of your life, this might make your life better. Like if you could find a hobby or something that like really fulfills you, even just like getting a book you love or getting obsessed with like a movie series or anything. To I think sometimes when we're geeking out about something or we're really tied into like toxic memory cycles, sometimes it's that we don't have anything else going on, and sometimes that's why it's important to just do something, try something new, even if it's going to take yourself out to go spend a day at the mall and walk around and like fill your day with that time, or reaching out to a friend, meeting up with them, or dating a little, going on like online dating, whatever the case may be. I feel like it's really important when we have a situation that is stressing us that we're kind of not fixating and going into a thought spiral on that, and we're like filling our cup with other things and getting other things to focus and bring our attention to. And I think when we do that, we find we're also a lot more balanced and present in our own relationships. Because sometimes it's like we're putting too much on our partner, or we don't have anything else going on, so we're fixating on someone from the past. It's never a good energy to be in when we don't have something to fulfill us and something to bring us joy. So let me get some more cards for you. Pile number 2. What messages do we have for pile 2? The Emperor. Okay. What messages do we have for pile 2? The World. Okay, and that's reversed. The Six of Swords. I kind of was expecting the Six of Swords for some reason. What messages do we have for pile number 2? The Four of Wands. And, oh, the Ten of Swords. And I'm going to get 2 more because pile 1 got 2 more. And I could use 2 more for you guys as well. The Moon. Ooh, that's what we were talking about. And let's get 1 more. The Nine of Pentacles. Okay. So I think it's really interesting that the World card came out reversed, because again, that can show a lack of completion. The World is completion. It is the final card in the major arcana. So it is like, okay, we accomplished something, we did something, we're done, we can move on. And that is reversed. But then we also got the Six of Swords coming out next, and that is talking about moving on from a situation. So I think you guys are going to have to use some of your intuition and your discretion. If there's a situation that feels complete, you're ready to move on from it, then you can have that permission to like go forward. If there's something that feels like there's still unfinished business, I also think sometimes like in our society or in the spiritual community or in the self-growth community, there can also be a lot of pressure on you to like constantly move on from situations that are toxic or aren't working out for you. Or if a situation feels bad, then don't tolerate it, and have some self-respect. And sometimes it's like there's still something that needs to be played out with it, and you know it in your heart, but you're getting pressured of like, how could you put up with this? How could you tolerate this? And I really think it's something you have to listen to, and only you can know like what, because there is no like right or wrong choice in life. There is no set formula for like how to make yourself happy. It's kind of a case by case basis. Different things make different people happy. So if there's something you still need to, like I mentioned this before, where I had an ex who wouldn't really text me a ton, and then I had told a friend of mine about it, and they were like, oh, I would never, I wasn't even, it didn't even really bother me. Like I was kind of like, yeah, it's fine. They text a lot more often usually, but I haven't heard from them in just a couple days, and they were on vacation. And my friend was like, that's absolutely crazy. I would never tolerate that. And so I ended the relationship. Like they really got into my head, and I thought, you're right. And this was like, I was pretty young, but I was like, you're right. Like they should be texting me. And they kind of framed it as like, I would never tolerate that and blah, blah, blah. So I broke up with them, and I was like, you're right. They must not care, because if they did, they would text me. And then I know that person really, really loved me. And like, it led to all these other issues in the relationship. My point is that I think no one can know what's important for you except you. No one can know what a deal breaker is except you. No one can know what's going to resonate with you except you. And I really regretted later cutting things off early because of all the problems it caused. It wasn't the full ending of the relationship, but it definitely threw a cog in the wheel, let's just say. And it wasn't probably the most mature way to handle things, And this is where I said, every time I've tried to bail out of a situation early where I still felt a connection, or I was like, yeah, but I really like this person, but you're right, let me end it. It's like, for me, it hasn't worked. For me, it's like there's always some energy that still needs to be played out to the end. And as much as you might be trying to protect yourself emotionally, because I think that's what was going on, is I thought, you're right. They kind of got in my head. So I was thinking, yeah, they probably don't care. You're right. Because if they did care, they would text me. So I kind of spiraled out with that. And it was more coming from a place of, let me protect myself. Let me protect my heart. This person doesn't care and I don't want to get hurt later. So let me end things now a little bit earlier. And even though everything else is good, let me just, because I don't want to get my heart broken. And of course, that's how you get your heart broken. And because if you still care about that person, you're not going to actually fully protect yourself. And so, yeah, I don't know what this is, but I do feel like for you guys, there's a message that if there's an energy you haven't fully addressed yet or fully allowed to kind of come to a logical ending, then have some patience with yourself and have some patience with the situation. And I think that's why the most important thing to do is live in the present moment, not living in the past, not living in the future, but living where you are now and taking the situation for what it is now, instead of thinking of what is it going to be down the road and what does that mean, or what was it in the past, or this happened, but what can I do to fill my life with joy and happiness and fulfillment in the present moment? And if that person makes me feel fulfilled, if that situation makes me feel fulfilled, if that situation makes me feel really good, then I'm going to follow that. I'm not going to allow a negative thought spiral to take me away from something that is energetically mine and destined for me in some way, whether it's a lesson, whether it's a blessing. But if there's still something there, then there's still something there. So I almost feel like there's a message for you not to get into your head and not to spiral out about certain things, or not to also fixate on old situation that's stagnant. Like really making sure you're living in the present moment and you're paying attention to what your heart is telling you in this current timeline, not how it used to be, not how it could be, but how do I feel now, and how can I make my life better and more fulfilled in the moment with that Four of Wands. Again, I feel like that could be a message about like having fun, maybe going out more, maybe having a hobby. The Four of Wands is such a fun celebratory card that's all about just being joyful in the moment. And yeah, I feel like for you guys, this is your message of like, how can you do things that are going to bring you joy in this present moment? Let's get some more cards for you. Pile number 2. What mystery messages do we have for pile 2? Garden of Venus, rest and renewal. Yeah. And deep quiet, meditation and stillness. Orange cactus, resourcefulness. Lost compass, getting back to integrity. Okay, so yeah, this makes a lot of sense for what I've been picking up on, because it almost feels like Spirit is just calling you to come to that chill place. And sometimes when we allow our fears to run the show, when we allow the what does this mean, and this must mean that, and this must mean blah blah blah, and if this person is acting this way, then they're blah blah blah. And it's like the reality is we can never really fully know someone else's heart. All we can do is go off our intuition, how it feels for us. And that can only come from that place of quiet intuition, because that's how intuition feels. It's quiet. There's a peace to it. It's never panicked. It's never stressed. It's always very matter of fact. And so, yeah, I mean, I can say during like my private readings, sometimes I picked up on the craziest messages, relatively like scary messages. This might happen, negative thing, but it's never come through with any kind of fear or panic or nervousness. It's always come through from a place of pure calm, because that's how Spirit sees things. It's almost like Spirit has that bird's eye view. Like if you're up in an airplane and you see a traffic jam, you're not going to be stressed out about it. If you're in that traffic jam, you're probably sweating, you're probably like honking your horn or sitting back and stressing and being like, oh my God, I'm going to be late to my appointment. Oh, this is so annoying. Oh, why do I have to do this? What's going on? What happened? Why is the road? And you're going to be spiraling out. But if you're up in that airplane, you're just like, oh yeah, there's a traffic jam down there anyway. And you're really much more calm about it. And that's kind of how Spirit feels about things, you know? So whenever we're panicking, whenever we are feeling so stressed, nervous,
anxious, trust and believe that is not spirit. That is coming from something else, somewhere else. And that's why it's really important for us to push ourselves back to that place of calm and to take the time to meditate, to be calm, to be peaceful. A lot of times when someone's like really stressed out, and whenever I ask them, well, are you meditating every day? They always say, no, I'm not. And I know it's hard because the last thing you want to do when you're stressed is meditate, right? But that's when it's most important time to do that, is when you are feeling anxious about a situation. Just try. You don't have to. I know sometimes people think when I say meditate, that means go, sit in like a desert and cross your legs and do yoga positions and like have this like crystals lined up over your body. I mean, you can do that if you want to. You can get a lot of great downloads in the desert or using crystals, but it's really not even that deep. If you just lay in your bed and just kind of quiet yourself, quiet the room, maybe close the blinds, whatever. But literally all it is just being able to tune into spirit. That's why sometimes people will say, I had the best, I had to take a long train ride and I was sitting in the train and I had this flash of insight, or I had this download, or I had this premonition and it ended up coming true. And I was in the shower, I was cooking. It doesn't even have to be you laying down. All it is those are moments when your mind is quiet and you're open and you're able to hear spirit. And that's all it is going to a place where you can literally be quiet, literally be calm, and just hear what spirit has to say to you, because I guarantee it will be peaceful, it will be calm, and it will give you that guidance. Let's get some astrology dice for pile number 2. What mystery message do we have for pile 2? So we got Scorpio, Saturn, and the 4th house. Okay, I mentioned Saturn and the 4th house both a lot. So let's start, I guess, with Scorpio. So Scorpio is a sign that's all about transmuting energy, endings, transformation. Plutonian people, Scorpionic people, they often find that they will go through many different iterations or like changes in their life. Like they will really switch up their persona. Like you see this a lot with Scorpio ascendants, like Taylor Swift, who's had multiple eras and she's constantly kind of like transforming and switching from album to album and totally changing her identity. Madonna is another person with like Pluto in the 1st house, Beyonce. So a lot of these artists who are known for transforming themselves really have strong Pluto or Scorpio ascendants. And that's really what they do. Scorpio is all about transformation and it's all about welcoming in a new era. And I think really Scorpio can truly teach us that even something that seems like an ending, even something that seems like a bad thing, and even something that seems really painful, because Pluto often deals with trauma, the pain from that, and sad things that we may not want to like really take a look at. Those things can actually give us the biggest blessings and literally can be that phoenix rising from the ashes, which is one of the 3 stages of Scorpio. So yeah, I feel like for you guys, you're being called to welcome in whatever transformation or change needs to happen in your life, and being really brave about that, and understanding as well that situations can take on different identities. You can be in a committed monogamous relationship with someone, but the relationship changes. And if you're willing to grow with it, and if you're willing to welcome in this new stage, or maybe your partner stepping into a different identity of their own, changing who they are, stepping into something else for themselves, whatever the case may be, if we're willing to be patient, if we're willing to give ourselves that space to grow and the others around us to give them space to grow, then there can be so many blessings that come as a result of that. And this also talks about Saturn, because these are 2 very karmic aspects. Saturn is the planet of karma, and it will definitely change you and make you grow and force you to grow. And this is something a lot of Capricorns and Aquarians understand deeply just inside of them, is that, you've got to go through the hard times to get to the blessings. And I feel like for you guys, this is about welcoming in that maybe you are going through a tough time in your life. Maybe you are going through a different identity or a shift in things, or maybe you do have a different perspective, or there's something that you're being called to really stick with or learn from or not give up on. Or maybe this is just a change in your life. Maybe you're going through a Saturn return or a heavy Saturn transit. Maybe you have like a Pisces ascendant and you're going through Pisces in the 1st house, like me right now, or you have a Pisces sun and it's over your sun. But I feel like for you guys, also Virgos, can be affected by it too. It could be opposing your sun. But the point is that I feel like right now, you guys are really being called to kind of like accept the place you're at and not fight it, not try to get away from it, but be like, okay, what can I learn from this? And if there's a situation I'm really committed to, which Saturn really gives you commitment. Like when a Capricorn commits, they are committed. When an Aquarius commits, they are committed because they are ruled by Saturn. So they really understand that element of commitment and what it means. And they're not a wishy-washy energy that expects everything to be sunshine and rainbows the way maybe a Libra, a Pisces may. And so there's actually a lot of beauty in that like the pain can teach you to commit. You know, when you go through a difficulty and you overcome it, a lot of times you're stronger as a result of it. You're more committed to it as a result of it. So I feel like for you guys, there's that message that if there's something that you want, this may not be the time to give up on it. It may be time to adjust your approach. It may be time to switch things up a little. And of course, you want to use your intuition. We also got the Six of Swords, the Ten of Swords, which can show that maybe there is a situation you're done with. You're going to have to listen to your heart. But there also can be that situation that we leave behind, or we are willing to change something fundamental about how we approach it. But we're still grateful for the experience. We're not going to resent it. We're not going to be mad about it. We're not going to fixate on like, I can't believe that happened. And we're going to welcome in whatever lesson we can take from that. And like I was saying, the fourth house, Cancer, the moon, they all deal with memory and the past. When it comes to astrology, the moon is the past and it is memory. And this is why a lot of Cancer moons are very sentimental. Like Taylor Swift, mentioning her again, she's a Cancer moon, and people always say, well, why is she writing songs from an ex like 10 years ago, whatever? And it's like, because she's a Cancer moon. So many of these artists that talk about old relationships like Post Malone or Dua Lipa or whatever have major Cancer placements, because it's a sign that really loves to delve into memory and kind of dredge that up. And I feel like, memory can be a double-edged sword. There can be a lot of beauty we get out of it, and there can be good lessons, but honestly, I do feel like sometimes it can be a real trap to kind of live in the past or to think or fixate on past things. And really, I do feel like you guys are being called to a certain extent to focus on where you are in the present, to focus on your own life now and making you happy and fulfilling yourself now, instead of things that happened a while ago, or situations that could have worked out or didn't work out, or they did, or reminiscing. But like, how can I make my life even better so that I'm not even called to focus on anything from the past? How can I make my life feel so fulfilled that I don't need to distract myself by dredging up a memory or by overthinking and kind of getting into those Cancer thought spirals? Because Cancers love to like overthink and remember and play sad music and kind of fall into a little, water sign hole with that. And I feel like you guys are being called instead to focus on your emotions now, because Cancer, the fourth house, is also your emotional state. And so if our emotions are more balanced, if we have more balance in our life, if we have more other things that are bringing us happiness and joy, we're not going to fixate as much on those things that aren't in our life anymore. So that is what I have for you. Pile number 4. I really hope it resonates. If it does, let me know down in the comments. If you enjoyed this reading, please give it a like, subscribe, hit the notification bell. If you want to see more of my content, head on over to my Patreon. I just posted a reading all about what people fantasize about you. There are over 85 exclusive readings you'll only get access to when you sign up for Patreon. There's also what you carried with you from your past lifetimes. That's a spiritual reading. Then we also have what makes you sexy. So that's another fun, spicy one. But there are, like I said, over 85 exclusive readings you'll only find on Patreon. And there are love readings, career readings, money readings, every topic under the sun we try to cover. You also get early and ad-free access to all my YouTube videos. So they always get posted over there first, pretty early, and you guys also get to suggest topics and vote in polls over there, so it's super interactive. If all of that sounds good to you and you're interested in signing up, head to the link underneath the timestamps in the comments and the description and join me over on Patreon. Also, if you're interested in booking a private session with me, you can do that at my website, briarrosetarot.com. Whether you want to sign up for a half-hour session, a full hour-long session, whether you're interested in booking a pre-recorded reading or a live session with me, whether you want me to pull tarot, read your astrology, channel for you, whatever the case may be, you can get that, like I said, at my website, briarrosetarot.com, and I would love to do a session with you. So that's about all I have to say, guys. And by the way, the link for that is in my description as well, just so you know. But yeah, thanks for watching, guys. I'm sending you all my love and light, and I will see you again very soon in another reading. Take care, guys, and I will see you then. Bye. Hey, pile 3, welcome to your reading. So let's get into your cards and see what mystery message you guys have. Okay, so we got goblins. Like there are people trying to get your attention, maybe on the astral plane. There is maybe someone who is like so upset that you're not paying attention to them. I feel like you guys are growing and stepping into your power. Like you are becoming much more powerful and much more willing to listen to yourself and what you want. And Spirit is saying this is a good thing, that you're becoming clear with yourself. It's almost like you've known what you wanted for a really long time, but you didn't want to ask for it. You were afraid to ask for it. You were afraid to say what you wanted. And Spirit wants you to know, if you have any fear that this is going to like ruin things in some way, like maybe you're wanting to ask for a raise at work and you're afraid like, oh, if I ask for a bonus or if I ask for more time off or whatever, that they're going to fire me and I feel like you need to know like, no, they're not. And what you're asking for is completely valid. And I actually think this could really transform things for you and make whatever this situation is so much better. Because it's almost like you're learning to verbalize things in a way that I feel like was very hard for you before. Maybe you were the type that like, if things got hard or if you were frustrated, you just leave it behind. And I feel like there's some message that you need to know also about it's okay to communicate, it's okay to ask for what you want, and that's kind of like a good thing. Like it's good that you are stepping into your power. It's good that you are learning to speak up. And maybe even you haven't done that yet. Maybe this is something that's still kind of percolating in your mind and you're thinking about doing it. You want to ask, you want to have those conversations, but then there's also that part of you that's like, oh, but if I ask, they're going to get annoyed. And I feel like you just need to know that like, of course you can ask for what you want. Of course you can stand up for yourself. And of course you can voice when something isn't working for you. I feel like this is really you learning to step into kind of your own authority with that and learning to be able to claim for what you want and be able to say and speak up for what you know in your heart. Because I feel like you are really stepping into your power in such a beautiful, positive way. And the person that was willing to take the back seat or step back or sacrifice themselves to make other people happy, I feel like that's really on the way out. And again, Spirit is just mentioning that this is a good thing. This is not a bad thing, even if it feels kind of scary, even if it feels kind of nerve-wracking. Like whenever we make these big changes or the first time we do something new, of course it's going to be daunting no matter what it is. Even if you're going to be really good at it, like if you're playing soccer the very first time, you're going to be uncertain, you're going to feel out of your depth, you're going to be a little bit nervous. But I honestly feel like you guys are going to be a natural at this. And there's some message of real positivity coming in that like, you've got this, you can handle this. And again, I feel like there's some situation that it's almost like it needs to be changed or it needs to be addressed. And you learning to advocate for yourself and stand up for yourself is such a good thing with this. Like this is not a bad thing. This is not something that is going to make things worse for your life or mess anything up. You know, the more I think we hold ourselves back and we feel afraid to say our feelings, the more we really sacrifice ourselves. And it's funny because sometimes we might put ourselves in situations where we do just that. Like when someone is dating someone, but they're too afraid to ask them like, what are we? Or someone is with someone, but you know, they're doing something in the relationship that really doesn't make them feel very good. Like maybe, again, it's a situationship, not a relationship. So they know that their partner is hooking up with other people and it bothers them, but they feel like if they ask, then the person's going to end things. So they just don't ask. And I feel like you need to know that like, if that's the case and you're having to sacrifice yourself for a situation that doesn't make you feel respected and aligned, then that situation is not for you. And if the situation is for you, then it will work out. And even if that person was to be like, well, I don't want a relationship right now, and so I need to step away, then if it's meant for you, then they will come back and they will feel like, I can't stop thinking of pile number 3, and spirits just put them in my mind over and over and over, and I got to give this a second chance. Even if they may need a moment to pause or to adjust, or they're like, well, that's not what I'm looking for. I wasn't looking for monogamy. Eventually they are going to be like, yeah, you know what? That is what I want. And I do miss pile 3 being around, and I am willing to make those sacrifices because I feel like pile number 3 is so worth it. So I feel like for you, this is really about being willing to be honest and the bravery that that really takes, because it is really hard when we feel like if I speak up, I could lose everything. If I tell my boss I want that raise, they might fire me. Of course, that moment when you have to actually speak up and ask for something is really scary and can freak you out and can like weigh on you. But I do feel like you guys are being called that if this situation is meant to last in your life, then you should be able to voice yourself. And again, maybe this is teaching you that lesson of self-worth and self kind of, I want to say self-preservation, or kind of like also how we manage our own emotions. Because when we come into a situation and we know we're going to be okay no matter what, when we have that faith in ourselves and we trust ourselves and we trust our own journey and our own path, then we're also not going to freak out even if the person says no. And people are smart when it comes to energy. They know when that energy is feeling desperate. They know when that energy is feeling like if this gets taken away from me, it's the end of the world. And they also know when that energy is strong, powerful, confident in itself, when that energy is self-sufficient, self-reliant, when that energy is like, yeah, you can take it away and you know what, I'm still gonna thrive. So when we come into a conversation with that energy, when we come into a conversation with that confidence and that faith in ourselves, then we don't have to even worry about how that person is going to receive it. They are going to sense that power, and either they can choose to walk away from it or acquiesce, but there's a lot more of a likelihood that they're going to actually take it seriously and listen to our concerns than if we come in and we really don't believe in ourselves and we're really scared and we're terrified of what they're going to say. Both of those situations are opportunities for growth, but I feel like you need to know that like whatever is for you is always going to be for you. And I will say, for my own personal experience, just when it comes to like dating, relationships, whatever, I've always known right away. I don't know if it's because I have an Aries Venus, and Aries is a quick energy, or maybe all my water that makes me more intuitive, but I've always known right away. And I find this is true of a lot of people. Like when you meet the person that you really like, you kind of know right off the bat. You know, a lot of guys say that, especially like, oh, I met my wife, I knew right away. And so that's my point, is so much of the time we are trying to like stave off a situation. We're trying to manage a situation. We're trying to like put on our best foot forward, you know, like, oh, let me seem really cool. Let me seem like I'm a really good cook. Let me seem like I'm blah, blah, blah. Let me seem like I'm successful. And the reality is, so much of the time, like the energy that is going to draw you to that person, the energy that makes someone fall in love is either there or it's not. And that's all you need to know. So it's not even really something you can like screw up. You know what I mean? Like if someone resonates with you as like, oh my God, that's the love of my life, my husband, that energy when you meet them feels different from the jump. If someone resonates with you as like, oh, that's my wife, and then you know, there's not that much you can do to like scare that person off. So I don't know who needs to hear this, but I just feel like this is your message, that maybe that can give you some freedom to like do exactly what you want, say what you want, speak up for yourself, be as honest as possible, because when you know that whatever is for you, you're not even going to be able to scare off, you're not going to be able to scare them away, then you're going to be able to be a lot more blunt and honest. And again, I'm not saying to like go off on someone and start screaming in their face, and be honest in the sense of like saying really toxic, mean stuff. Of course, we still need to like communicate in a calm way and, you know, manage our emotions in that sense, not like completely spiraling out and just letting someone have it and saying the most messed up things. But for the most part, if there's something that like you've been worried about, or I don't know, you want something different in the relationship, I feel like this is your call of like you need to be able to voice for yourself. And whether this is a relationship, maybe it's like you want to, like I said, ask for a raise at work, or something's really bothering you with a friendship, or a family member, or something different that you want to do in your career. Do you feel really called to do something different with your career or with a hobby or whatever? But there's a part of you that keeps being like, no, I can't. If I do that, no one's going to like it. So like, again, whatever is for you will be for you. So if that's meant to be, if it's meant to happen, then you should already just be doing it, acting from that place of authenticity. And if it is right for you, and if that is the career path for you or whatever, then chances are, if you're being called to ask about this or do this or step forward in this way, then that is for a reason. Let's get some cards for you. Pile number 3 for their mystery message. What messages do we have for pile 3's mystery message? The 6 of Cups. Yeah, because I feel like there's real alignment that you have with this situation, whatever it is, whether it's a person, whether it's a career. It's like, it feels like there's a really good energy here. It feels like there's a lot of love if it is a romantic situation. Or a career, whatever. It feels like there's a lot of positivity and there's a lot of potential. Let me get 2 more cards for you. Pile number 3. 1 more card for pile 3. Okay, the Hierophant. Great. So we have the 6 of Cups, the King of Pentacles, 4 of Swords, not King of Cups, 6 of Swords reversed, the Hierophant, and the Devil card reversed. So, okay. The 6 of Swords reversed may talk about, like, maybe you have a tendency to just run. Maybe if the going gets tough, you get going and you just leave. Like, maybe, you know, when things get hard, you tend to be like, you know what? I'm over it. I'm not going to do this, or this is bad for me. And I feel like I've been getting this message for a lot of the piles, but there's almost like sometimes whenever you are meant to accomplish something, sometimes we stereotype things, like especially when it comes to manifestation or whatever, as it's all going to be sunshine and rainbows. And sometimes I think that does happen. Sometimes the energy is just easy and it flows. And a lot of times that's how you'll know something is for you. But there's also times when you might have to confront the energy, adjust the energy, and have that kind of stick-to-itness that a lot of Capricorns, earth signs, Virgos, Tauruses have. All the earth signs kind of fundamentally know this. The Pentacle card, for example, culminates in the positivity of the 10 of Pentacles and the 9 of Pentacles, the massive success that we see in the later Pentacles. But it also goes through like the 5 of Pentacles. It also is going through the boring hard work of the 7 of Pentacles. The Pentacles journey is not an easy one, and it has a lot of like boring, stagnant energy that's just about working hard. It's not a particularly exciting suit the way maybe water has a bunch of like kind of like really exciting or just fun cards, or kind of like playful cards like the 6 of Cups or the 3 of Cups, or fire, where fire has a lot of celebration, the 4 of Wands, the 6 of Wands. Instead, the Pentacles energy is very kind of plodding and kind of slow, and kind of hard work is a major focus. There's not as much celebration at all through the Pentacle journey, and yet it culminates in some of the most positive cards. And you see the 10 and the 9 of Pentacles are cards that when people get them, they're so excited, and it's such a like, yay, woohoo energy. But really what it is once you get to that point, they have already moved through the lower Pentacles energy. So they've already moved through the boring energy of the 7 of Pentacles, where you're just having to plant these seeds and you're having to work and you haven't seen the payoff yet. The 8 of Pentacles, the patience of that, you know, yeah, the 5 of Pentacles, maybe even being broke or having a setback, or really feeling like, I'm working so hard and it's not paying off. So yeah, I feel like, you know, sometimes we think that in order for a situation to have to be for us, it has to just completely be flowers and sunshine and constant celebration and champagne all the time, when the reality is sometimes certain situations do need to be adjusted. They do need to be worked on. They do need to be tinkered with and played with, and we need to pour some work into it. And that doesn't necessarily mean it's not for us. So I feel like for you guys, sometimes maybe you don't even want to speak up. You're like, oh, I'm just not going to deal with this. Or if this situation isn't flowing, it's not for me. Maybe like this is a red flag. And I almost feel like there's a message here that if there's something that you really want and something that is for you and something that aligns with you, that actually you might grow more. This situation might get even better because you put the work in, because you were willing to speak up, because you were willing to have those hard conversations, and because you were really willing to give it your all and be emotionally present with this King of Cups energy, the King of Pentacles. Earth and water is such a powerful combination together. They're both the two feminine signs, and yeah, they're both also wet energy. So when it comes to kind of the metaphysics of the signs, they have a lot in common, and that's why a lot of astrologers actually often pair earth and water together as like ideal matches in the zodiac, because when you combine like earth and water, when you think about it, you make clay, and that's one of the most powerful durable substances. I mean, people have built houses out of clay for years and years and years, and you can make really solid structures out of clay. You can make pottery, you can build a house. I mean, there's so much longevity potential when it comes to combining earth and water, and we see them combined here. So earth being that hard work, that commitment to kind of being diligent, not living in the moment, not being overly emotional, but really committing to something and taking a hard look at it and being willing to do that kind of boring work that a lot of water signs might not want to do, that kind of work that may not pay off right away, but has a long-term focus. That's very earth energy. And then when it comes to water, you have the emotions, you have the emotional receptivity, the kind of empathy that you see in water, and also the spiritual psychic abilities that water has. So when you combine that energy, you really can alchemize to build some of the most permanent structures you ever could, that you just wouldn't necessarily see if you combine fire and water together, or air and water, or air and earth, or fire and earth. You see something really special in water and earth. Not saying, by the way, if you're a water sign or an earth sign, you can't be compatible with earth or fire. Definitely not. I'm just speaking specifically about what's coming through for you guys, where I feel like you're being called to balance your emotions and also being called to be mature and responsible about it. Sometimes we get too in our water energy, too emotional, too living in the moment, too impetuous and impulsive, and like overwhelmed with an emotion and letting it just blow us away. And then on the other side, we could be too earth energy. We can be too responsible. We can be kind of pessimistic about things, or too not paying attention to how we feel at all, and just kind of focus on that long-term, one day this will pay off journey. And I feel like you guys are really being called to use your empathy, to still be empathetic, to still be emotional and kind and spiritual, but at the same time also being balanced. So I know sometimes that can seem hard to reconcile. Like, if I'm going to be emotional and empathetic to this person, then I'm going to be weak and I'm not going to have any boundaries up. Or if I'm going to have boundaries up with this person, then I'm going to be a hard jerk and I'm just going to tell them what's going on. But actually, there can be a middle path where we really do both. We're empathetic, we're kind, we are respecting and in touch with our emotions, but we're also voicing and asking and being direct about what we need and what we want and about our boundaries. So yeah, I feel like you guys are really being called to have that maturity and to really, and look, we see Taurus here as well, the Hierophant, and Taurus is the master builder. Taurus is all about building, speaking of clay structures. And Taurus does a really good job about balancing that Venus energy with the earth energy. So kind of that emotional centeredness of Venus and relationships with earth energy, and that patience that earth has. The Devil card being reversed can also talk about like getting over negative or dysfunctional patterns in our life. Sometimes we can get stuck into old behaviors that don't even serve us anymore. You know, we can be acting out of a place of toxicity, or we can be acting out of a place of pain and dysfunction. And it can be really hard because those can be very like rooted in our energy fields. You know, we can have a certain way of handling situations that are just pure habit. Like every time, you know, someone asks me to do something I don't want to do at work, I get overwhelmed and I start crying. And it's really worth kind of unpacking, what is that? Or every time my boyfriend wants to have a hard discussion, I tend to just be like, then break up with me, then leave me, and freaking out, you know? And it's really important to question, Why am I having these reactions? A lot of times it does tie back to childhood. It could also tie back to past life things. But the amazing thing is realizing how much potential we have to alchemize, to overcome, to change that we don't need to stay stuck and rooted in those behaviors. We don't need to stay in a place where we are still acting out bad stuff from past lifetimes. And just because something happened in a past lifetime that's giving us that stress or that anxiety doesn't mean it's going to happen in this life again. So sometimes it's just about reassuring ourselves, like, you know what, I'm actually safe. I am okay. And just because this situation is triggering me or it's upsetting me or I don't really know how to handle it right now doesn't mean I won't know how to handle it down the road. Doesn't mean I'm not going to be able to successfully manage whatever this is and take care of it in the future. So I feel like you're really being called to kind of have that patience with yourself as well. Earth signs are also very patient. Earth is the slowest sign in in tarot, like Pentacles is the slowest energy. So sometimes we have to kind of be chill with ourselves. Sometimes we get into a situation and we feel overwhelmed because, again, it's new to us. If we've always acted out of a toxic, dysfunctional way, if we're used to being hyper independent and then we're in a relationship that really the partner is challenging us to share more with them, to be more open to them, it can feel like an attack. It can feel scary if we've always been codependent and this relationship is kind of forcing us to step into our independent energy. That can feel like an attack as well. And sometimes it's like, let me step back from this, and instead of just reacting in the moment, let me have that long-term patient energy and focus on how can I grow, how can I alchemize this, and how can I take this opportunity to make myself into a better person, and grow and stuff. Let's get some of these cards for you. Pile number 3. Covenant, sacred contract. Yes, this is your reminder as well that we do make certain soul contracts on the other side. We may sign up for certain lessons. What is this tarot card doing? Stuck in that deck. That's very funny. I don't know how that happened. Okay, we got Dust Devil, moving out of stagnation. But as I was saying, we do sign up for certain lessons on the other side. We sign up for certain soul contracts. We sign up to go through certain things and to learn certain lessons. And we sign up for connections with certain people that are going to trigger us or are going to bring out that side of us. And again, just because you're triggered by a situation, just because something may be upsetting or scary or kind of take us out of our comfort zone, it doesn't mean it's a bad thing. Look at this Dust Devil moving out of stagnation. And that's really what it is. Sometimes when we're triggered, it's just because we've been in a stagnant energy for a really long time. And this is forcing us to learn new things. I think what's really interesting is they found that if you go on a walk in a new location that you've never been in before, that it's really activating a totally new part of your brain. So I know for me, I used to live in this neighborhood and I would always go for a walk around the block. And I actually, because of where the neighborhood was located, I couldn't really go into other neighborhoods as much. I had to either cross this kind of highway, and it was the neighborhood was pretty, but if I left the neighborhood, it would either take a lot of cutting through this road. And so it was I just walk around the neighborhood, and it had a little pond. It was pretty, but honestly, it got super boring. And I would find that I would just go on the walk on autopilot. I wouldn't even be processing. And it was by my 10th time, because I like to go for really long walks. I love to go for 2-hour walks. I'm just a walker. Whenever I get stressed, my brain or myself is just how about a walk? Let's go for a walk. That's just my cure-all. So I would go for a walk around the block. And by the 20th time going around the pond, I would just be not even noticing it. And it didn't scratch that itch that I needed for a walk. And then I found that study that said, well, actually, if you walk in a new location, a new neighborhood, a new whatever, it actually does activate a different part of your brain. And it's a very vital part of the brain. And it's kind of why we like to go for walks and stuff, because there's something about, even if it's just another neighborhood, but it's not it doesn't have to be this crazy new surrounding, suddenly you're walking through a rainforest or the desert or along this ocean cliff. It doesn't have to be anything exciting. It can be just a new neighborhood similar to your own, but maybe that one has a red mailbox and that one has a purple door. And that's kind of interesting. In that house, wow, I love what they did with their front porch, but it really activates different like neurons or something in the brain. I don't know exactly. But if you're doing the same old thing over and over, that part of the brain doesn't turn on and it doesn't, like I said, scratch that same itch for you. And I think that's really interesting because I think that shows how much we as humans kind of need that unpredictability. And I'm sure if you've ever been in a situation where you had to walk around in the same neighborhood over and over, or just do laps inside like a little trail, maybe you did laps at like your local high school around the football field or something, but it just doesn't hit the same. Or walking on a treadmill at the gym, staring at the wall, it just doesn't do the same things. And there's something really powerful about pushing ourselves out of our comfort zone, even though it may feel uncomfortable, even though it may feel safer, because I know that neighborhood like the back of my hand, and I know that gym really well. But there's something about putting yourself in a new vibe, pushing yourself forward, that really does a lot for us. So I feel like you're being called that whatever this situation is, even though it may feel like it's kind of pushing you, it's kind of triggering you, it's maybe a little scary, I really feel like you're being called that that's exactly what you need right now. And be willing to be present with this. Be willing to stick with it instead of running away from it. This is an opportunity for growth. It's not happening to you or against you, it's happening for you. Let's get into some astrology dice to end this reading. So we got the 7th house, aka Libra, and Mars and Virgo. So let's read from left to right. So we have the 7th house, aka Libra. So the 7th house is all about relationships and partnership, and that's why Libras are great at compromise and great at negotiating, and a lot of them really will prioritize other people's opinions or perspectives over their own. And again, I feel like you're really being called that there's something maybe about this that you're gonna have to like maybe sometimes step out of your own opinion. I think that's what Libras really understand deeply, is that relationships aren't just a me type thing. And that's why it opposes Aries, the house of the South, the 1st house, which is our next sign. But so I guess we can talk about both of them now, because that's kind of what's coming through, is like when you're really willing to step into a partnership or to work through a situation, there is going to be that time of clashing or butting heads, or having to present your opinion to the other person, having to voice your needs. A lot of Libras actually have a hard time even doing that. And so maybe this could even be that message actually about stepping a little bit more into that Aries energy and having that balance where you're not sacrificing yourself for the other person, but you're also not being so selfish that you're not even seeing their perspective at all. There is a call for kind of a little bit of balance and a little bit of moderation. So some temperance here. We can balance things out. We can step into our energy and listen to ourselves and respect our perspective, and also try to respect the other person's perspective too. And that's where we really have the greatest potential for coming together with another person, and for doing it in a way that looks after our own needs as well. So whatever the situation is, again, I feel like you're learning more maybe relationship management techniques, or whether this is at work, whatever the case is, I think you're learning how to respect the needs of others and also respect your own needs as well. And learning that what is right with you, again, you really can't mess up. It's going to be a place where you can respect what you need, and the person is going to be willing to give that to you, and also you can respect what they need. Then we also have Virgo, and Virgo is, again, an earth sign, and Virgo is also very patient, also very willing to work through things. Virgo's also perfectionistic, and they are going to point out when there's a problem or there's something that needs to be adjusted or changed or done differently. They're not going to kind of swallow it down and pretend. And that's why sometimes they can get, a little heat for being overly critical of partners, why Venus is debilitated there. But I think the good side with Virgo is Virgos really will point out something that needs to change, and they're not going to stick around and pretend and kind of put on those rose-colored glasses of Pisces, which it opposes. They're going to really address things that are a problem and voice them and try to fix them, because Virgo is actually a healer. So sometimes something that may come up that may seem like a problem, may seem very difficult, that again, a Pisces might want to run away from and just be like, I'm just going to pretend I can't see it. A Virgo is going to sit down, work on it, have that earth sign tenacity, and that can end in a lot more fixing, healing the situation than if we just try to ignore it. So I feel like you're being called to fix, deal with whatever this is, face it head on, and address the problem instead of just pretending everything is cool. But that is what I have for you. Pile number 3. I really hope it resonates. If it does, let me know in the comments, and make sure to like this reading if you enjoyed it, and subscribe, turn on notifications, all that jazz. If you want to see more of my content, head on over to my Patreon. I just posted a reading all about what people fantasize about you. That's a little fun, spicy reading, and also one about what you're carrying with you from past lifetimes, spiritual reading. And we have another spicy reading, what is your sexiest quality? But there are so many readings over on Patreon, over 85 exclusive readings. There are love readings, career readings, money readings, future life, past life, spiritual, fun, personality, every kind of topic under the sun we try to cover. And we also post all the YouTube readings over there first, way early. So you get to be the first to watch my YouTube videos over there. And you also get to vote on new topics and suggest new topics as well. So it's very interactive in that sense. So if you're interested in signing up, head to the link underneath the timestamps in the comments, in the description, and join me over on Patreon. Also, if you're interested in booking a private session with me, you can do that at my website, briarrosetarot.com, and you can sign up for a half hour or a full hour-long reading with me, and you can get me to read your tarot, read your astrology, channel for you, do a little combination. You can do a pre-recorded reading, a live session. You get to really choose how it goes, and the link for that is in my description for briarrosetarot.com. So thank you so much for watching, guys. I'm sending you so much love and light, and I will see you again very soon in another reading. Take care, guys. Bye. Hey, Pile 4, welcome to your mystery reading. Just a heads up, it is raining really hard. That's why it's so dark in here as well. So there's thunder, lightning in the background. Hopefully you guys won't mind it too much. I think last time when it was raining really hard, a lot of people said they like it. So we're getting it again today, and hopefully it won't be too distracting or anything. But let's get into your mystery reading cards. We got Rescue. I personally love reading while it's raining, like to me it's super atmospheric and cozy. So hopefully you guys won't mind. We got Rescue. We got Goblins, Cleaning House, and Dragon's Lair. And let's get one more card. Sparks of Joy, Peaks of Joy. So we have Rescue, Goblins, Cleaning House, Peaks of Joy, and Dragon's Lair. I feel like there's a message for you that there's something so good coming in. It's funny that you guys got this while it's raining so hard, because I feel like this is a really, really positive message, and I do apologize, it's dark. I'm going to try to color correct in editing, but it's pretty dark right now. But I do feel like there's a message for you guys that there's something so much fun and beautiful coming in for you. I almost feel like whatever this is, you're going to be so happy about. Either it's already happening. I can feel this very like giddy energy around you guys. When I tune into your energy, it feels like maybe some of you guys are like, you have a new crush, or you have something you're really excited about with your life, like something happening in your career that's just like making you so excited, or you're planning a move and you can't wait, or you're going on a trip and you're just so happy. But there's something that I feel like is so exciting that's either just around the corner or already happening for you. And all I can feel is like this intense anticipation. I feel like there is a message for you to live in the moment, to enjoy and appreciate where you're at right now. I feel like I'm like shouting over this rain, by the way. I don't know how much of it you're going to hear in after post-processing, but yeah. I feel like you are being called, though, to really live in this moment and enjoy where you're at right now, and really take in the present situation, because it's almost like there's a message that life is fleeting and you're not going to be here forever. So make sure that you're really taking this time out to live in the moment, to stay in the present, and to appreciate and enjoy where you're at right now. I'm also hearing the message that if things are being removed from your life right now, that they're being removed for a reason. That if things are being cleared out from you, then they need to go. And I feel like you are really alchemizing into this like brand new, fresh energy. It's almost like things that have held you back in the past, or bad habits that you've had in the past, things that maybe you tolerated, or maybe you didn't really know how to work through, or situations that made you feel stuck in the past. I feel like you're really building and alchemizing yourself out of that, and like you're ready for totally new challenges and totally new levels. And I also feel like there's a message that where you're going to be in like 6 months time, 3 months time, a year from now,
wherever on the timeline is going to be a totally different version of you. And you're going to be so proud that you worked through this old energy and that you have now stepped into this new version of you. It's almost like things that used to be in alignment with you are no longer in alignment, and you are making the choice to step away from certain old patterns, certain old things, and you're really choosing to step towards what makes you happy. I feel like you are so, first of all, Spirit is just acknowledging the heavy shadow work you guys have done and the fact that you have been willing to push yourself in the past, and I feel like do a lot of this really hard work, and I feel like Spirit is really proud of you. I'm also hearing there was a situation in which you could have easily run from it. There was a situation in which you could have easily been like, I'm not doing this, I'm out, and just kind of like taken the easy way out. But there was something that you were really willing to work through. And what I'm getting is that there are certain like karmic patterns that we all fall into, right? Karmic patterns of behavior. Like oftentimes, and I've mentioned this with another pile, but I love this joke by Joel Osteen, who to me is basically like a stand-up comedian. I don't know what kind of sad statement it is on my sense of humor that like I never laugh with like stand-up comics, but Joel Osteen has me like rolling on the floor. But he tells this joke about, I don't know, it's kind of a quick joke, but he says, you know, the good news is when you fail a lesson the first time, you get to take it again and again and again. And obviously the joke in that is that none of us want to do that, right? We don't want to like have to retake these life lessons. We don't want to have to go through the same pain, the same dysfunctional situation over and over. And so many of us find ourselves in those patterns. Like we say, well, how is it even possible that I had 2 boyfriends and they both screwed me over in the same exact weird niche way? Like, how is it both of them ended up cheating with a close friend of mine? What are the statistical odds on that? Why does this keep happening for me? Or why is it that I get 2 boyfriends and they're both horrible at texting, and both of them end up like ghosting me for a few days, but then they claim to, like, why am I in the same exact vibe? Or why am I at a workplace and both of the bosses are super similar? Or why do I have a family dynamic? And every time I think I ended one or I get out of one, it comes up again. And it's because we haven't learned that lesson. And oftentimes I find it's because we kind of hit the escape button too early. Kind of like this rescue card, like we parachute out of it. We're just like, oh, I can't deal with this. And we just leave, and we don't really necessarily take the time to process what's going on. And no, I'm not saying that we should stay in that situation with a horrible boyfriend that treats us badly and that we should just, you know, keep ourselves linked to them and just tolerate the BS. I'm definitely not saying that. But I do feel like for you guys, there is this message that you're being really called to, or what you have done, I guess I should say more, this is a past energy, is there was a situation in which you could have bailed out, you could have like hit the panic button and left and just been like, I'm not doing this anymore. But I feel like you were really willing to stick to it and like take the lessons on and learn the lessons instead of running away from it, instead of being like, oh, this is too hard, I'm not doing this. I feel like you have really pushed yourself when it comes to shadow work and when it comes to shadow growth. Maybe that's why it's like raining so hard, is you were willing to go into those depths of the hard moments, the rain of life, the difficulty and the pain, and not the sunshine and rainbows, beautiful, happy, bright sunshine life era. You guys were willing to go down deep into your subconscious, and I feel like you have really unpacked certain things and really moved past old patterns of behavior and moved into this new era. And I'm hearing that you're so much more equipped to attract what you want now because of this. Because some of you guys, you were given challenges, you were given these lessons to learn, and you freaking aced the test. A lot of you guys have matured so much more, and you have stepped into such a more powerful energy than you were in the past. A lot of you guys are choosing, instead of running away from these karmic situations, you've really embraced them. You've allowed yourself to take away whatever you needed to take out of them. It's not that you've stayed like mired in them and just kind of like continue to put up with trash. But I do feel like you were very brave in sticking it out for certain things, or in at least alchemizing lessons and integrating them into your life and being willing to allow spirit to put you through these times. And I do feel like because of that, you are ready, like I said, for new challenges. A lot of you guys are going to be ready for new blessings and new lessons. And again, things that you weren't capable of doing even like 6 months ago or 3 months ago or a year ago, you are now ready for them. And I feel like this is almost like a new version of yourself that you're stepping into. Like
this person that you're becoming is so different and so capable of so much more than you were in the past. And I actually think it's really, really exciting to see, like I said, this new version, and to see this kind of different era that you guys are embracing at this time. Let me get some tarot for you as well. We want to get tarot. Oh, look how dark it is. We want to get some tarot for pile number 4. What is their mystery reading? What tarot do we need to get for pile number 4? Okay, we got the Knight of Swords, the Seven of Wands, the Nine of Wands, Queen of Swords, and let's get 2 more. The Death card reversed, and the Six of Pentacles. Okay, very interesting. Yeah, I feel like there's something about you guys stepping into your authority and becoming better communicators. The Queen of Swords, the Knight of Swords, those both deal with communication, and they both, to a certain extent, on different levels, but mastered the art of communication, become better communicators. And I really feel like that's something you guys have stepped into. Like, this is about, for some of you guys, I think, voicing more of what you want. It could even be about you writing down like a manifestation ritual of all the things you want in a partner or all the things you want in a job. I feel like for you, there's a message about getting very, very clear about what you wanted in a way that you haven't been in the past. We got the Moon card coming out. The Moon card in tarot is ruled by Pisces. And so it's a very like hazy, it can really talk about that confusion we see with Pisces and Neptune. And even the moon itself kind of obfuscates and obscures. It doesn't show things as clearly as the sun does. If you've ever like had to navigate in a place with no light and only by moonlight, like in the desert by moonlight, even on a full moon, you can make out the outline, but you can't see it all. You can't look down and see every detail the way you could in sunlight. And so the moon can often hide and obscure. And I almost feel like in the past, you've been like emotionally wanting certain things, but you haven't been fully clear on what that is. Maybe you had certain goals, certain dreams, but they seemed out of reach, or they seemed kind of impossible, or you weren't fully clear about what exactly is that. I feel like there's a message for you with that Six of Pentacles coming out, that Spirit really wants to bless you, but you're going to have to become clear about what you're asking for and exactly what you want. There's no point in saying, I want to have, I don't know, a happy life, because that's going to mean different things for everyone. For someone who has maybe a north node in the second house, maybe that would involve them really learning to work all the time. Maybe they have a stellium in the second house and they want to build their own money, and they're going to only feel happy and fulfilled in their life when they have a career of their own. And if they were to marry someone with money and be able to lounge around all day, it just wouldn't work for them. You know, it wouldn't be something that would fulfill them, especially same with like a 10th house north node or a 10th house stellium. That wouldn't necessarily fulfill them. Now, if someone has, you know, a lot of Pisces placements, they might be completely happy lounging around all day, dreaming, imagining, painting, and waking up late, and like, you know, just being in their relationship all the time. But it really depends on what you have, what you want, and what's going to make you happy. And that's why it's pointless whenever we're trying to manifest something, but we're asking for just like, oh, I just want a good man, or I just want a man, I'm just lonely and I just want a boyfriend. Well, then Spirit's going to give you like any old guy, you know? So that's why you have to be clear about what do I want. And I even think for you, this is about getting clear, like within a relationship, about certain boundaries, about learning to ask for certain things, about being willing to speak up and say that you want certain things. There's also a message that I'm getting intuitively for some of you guys, that even when there's a situation in which we feel really giddy and excited and like energetic about, sometimes those butterflies aren't necessarily that green flag we're hoping it is, that's telling us, oh yeah, you're headed in exactly the right direction. Even though those butterflies can feel amazing, and it's great to feel excited and nervous and happy about like a new partner, a new person we're talking to, a new job, whatever the case may be. Sometimes if that situation is really actually making us feel this nervous unsettlement, that can actually be a sign that it's not for us, or that this situation is tapping into some kind of past life thing, traumas. it's kind of dysfunctional. And that's why I think it's really important to always come back to that place of calm, that place of peace that really Spirit talks to us from. Sometimes we can get so in a tizzy. We can almost be with this 9 of Wands and the 7 of Wands. We can get this charge from like, I'm the one who won. We can end up fighting over a man or fighting over a role. And do we actually even want it? You know, do we actually want that position in our career? Do we want that boyfriend? Or is it just we've gotten into this fake sense of like competition, or I've got to win, or I've got to prove to everyone that I can do this, or everyone's watching, so let me try to seem like I'm thriving. And that's really not in alignment with what is right for us. So I don't know what this is, but I feel like there's a message for you about stepping back into your authentic self as well. And not to say that this situation couldn't be good, because I do feel like for some of you guys, this is a really beautiful thing. But I also feel like there may be situations you may have to leave in the past, situations that may not fully be in alignment with you. And you're being called to be really clear about what you want, what you need, and whether this situation is fully benefiting you or not. Because if it's not benefiting you, if it's just, I want to be the first one in my friend group to get married, then that's not necessarily the best way to make a decision. Now, if you're genuinely like, no, I'm in love with this person, I would marry them whenever. I would marry them in like a brown paper sack and I don't care, then absolutely go for it. But if you're like, I just want to be the first person in my friend group to have that ring, then that's not necessarily the best way to make a life choice. It's not necessarily not for you, but you want to make sure that you're genuinely acting out of that place of what is authentic and right for you. And there's also this message that everything you release and let go, everything that you are willing to part from, you will get it back tenfold. You're going to have something so beautiful and new and special that is going to be coming into your life. And I feel like when it does, you're going to be so grateful and relieved that you also released the old stuff, that you let go of the things that weren't resonating with you. Because I can tell from your energy, pile number 4, you guys just have this sweet, beautiful, almost like giddy energy. And I feel like you need to know that you are so deserving of everything special. You are so deserving of being treated with love and kindness and respect. And if you're in a situation with anyone who's not treating you this way, then that is your sign to keep it moving, because your energy is so special. You are unforgettable. You guys are it, okay? You are not easily replaceable. You are not someone that people are just going to forget and move on from. And you deserve absolutely the best, and you can have the best. So there is no need for you to tolerate any kind of bad behavior, any kind of someone putting you in competition with someone else, someone not treating you with the biggest amount of love, someone who's making you question yourself. That may be because they feel triggered by how absolutely special and amazing you are. And I do feel like you guys are going to be faced with some amazing opportunities in the future or now. You are going to be faced with some absolutely wonderful things. And when you are, I feel like you're going to be so glad that you didn't compromise your values or yourself to make anyone else happy. This is really about you claiming your power and also seeing things clearly. I think sometimes, especially when we get into that place of competition or panic, this kind of 9 of Wands, 7 of Wands, this kind of later Wands cards where we feel like very desperate in the moment. We feel like, oh, I have to do everything and I can't, and I have to take care of this, and this is my last chance, or everyone else wants this and I have to take it. And that's when we really can lose sight of the endless abundance of the universe. And that if one opportunity doesn't act out, doesn't pan out, isn't the one for us, then trust and believe there will be plenty of other opportunities on its way. So if one situation isn't happening the way we want it to, it's okay to part with that situation with kindness, with love, with gratefulness for everything it taught us, but also we can step forward confidently into the future, knowing we can easily get everything we are asking for and more. So again, the universe has endless abundance. And so if one opportunity isn't happening, then trust and believe there's going to be so many more in the future. And I feel like you need to know that, like I said, you are special and you have so many people who would love to be around you. You have so many people who really admire you and look up to you. Pile number 4. So really you need to stay away from anyone who doesn't make you feel admired, respected, loved, and cherished. I want to get into some of these cards. What messages do we have for pile number 4 for their mystery reading, Spirit? What messages do we have for pile 4 for their mystery reading? What messages do you have for pile 4 for their mystery reading? Spirit of the river, movement towards adventure. Yes. I love this boldness that I'm feeling. Like, honestly, it feels to me like you're really being called to, like, one, trust this process, repairing the veil, forgiveness, okay? Caterpillar, opportunity, and perfect storm, the courage to step into life. Yes, you're really being called to be bold, pile number 4, and you're really being called to have faith in the universe and to trust this process. I think when I think of like clients I've had and they seem to be making kind of the worst decisions, or they seem to be doing things that aren't in alignment for them, I always think it's because they're acting from a place of panic. Like, they'll say, you know, if I'm like, well, I don't know, this job to me, it doesn't really seem like it's going really well, or it doesn't feel good to me, but I don't know, you seem very committed to it, and they're showing me you don't want to leave right now. And they'll be like, yeah, well, I just like, this is the only job and I don't think I can find a new one. Or they'll say, yeah, I mean, I really don't like my boyfriend that much and he treats me disrespectfully, but, you know, my friend just got married. I'm going to be the last single one in my group. I'm afraid I'm getting too old. I'm about to turn 30. And it's so sad because you always want to shake them and be like, excuse me, there's so much opportunity. Like, what are you even talking about? And I always remember this Dateline podcast that I listened to where there was this woman and she was like very successful, very beautiful. Everyone loved her. They were saying she was so vivacious. She was so gorgeous and like really popular. Everyone thought she was fantastic. And she was very successful as a result of all of that. And anyway, she was like 35 and she ended up marrying this guy, and turns out he was not very successful. He was kind of like unemployed, and he also didn't really treat her that well, whatever. And of course, because it's an episode of Dateline, they kind of tell the story so you don't really know it right away, but he ended up killing her. I think he shoved her off a cliff or something like that and then hid it and disguised it. But whenever anyone was asking about him, they would always say, yeah, we never really liked him, and everyone didn't really understand why they were together, and we thought he was a jerk. But they would say she was turning 35, and she thought that this was her last chance. And she said, this is my last chance. And she had been single for a long time, and all her friends were married. And honestly, I think that is like one of the most dangerous energies you can be is when you think that this is like the last train leaving the station, your last chance, your last opportunity. And it's such a limited mindset. Like, I bet if she had been willing to stay single, she probably could have found an amazing guy. When they showed pictures of the girl, she was beautiful. And she was vivacious. She had a great personality. So how did she end up with him was kind of a question being asked by the podcast. The guy's kind of a loser, doesn't have a job, blah, blah, blah. And it really was because of that limited mindset, this idea she had of a timeline in her mind. When the reality is we have endless time. And the best thing you can do is have that patience to wait for the opportunity that is truly aligned with you. And the opportunity that truly makes you feel good, happy, respected, abundant, joyful, excited. That is the opportunity that is for you, and anything that doesn't live up to that is not the one you should be hanging around. I feel like for a lot of you guys, this is your call to again be bold. Either maybe this is about you going out and flirting a little bit more. Maybe this is about you saying yes to a new work opportunity. Maybe this is about you calling up your girlfriends and going out to meet up for drinks. But I feel like there is a message for you that you're such a special energy, and there is no way you should be hiding yourself away from the world, settling for things that don't align with you. You have so many options. You are it, pile number 4. And anyone who's trying to make you feel less than, anyone who's trying to stress you out or make you think that you are not the most amazing person, is maybe they're trying to do that for a reason. Maybe they're trying to trap you. Maybe they're trying to stress you out, put some fear in your heart so that you aren't able to access your full potential. I feel like you are really, really being called to be bold, to trust the process, to trust yourself, most importantly, and know that you've got this. And just like, once you graduate college, there's this really sad feeling of like, oh my God, that time in my life is over. It's so sad. I'm never going to blah, blah, blah again. But you end up really enjoying working. And then maybe you leave a job and you're sad about that. And you're like, I love that job. And then you find another job, or you leave a relationship and it seems like the end of the world and you're so sad. You don't know if you're ever going to fall in love again, and then you do. So again, the universe has endless, endless, endless abundance, and make sure you're aligning with those things that make you feel beautiful, you feel respected, you feel joyful, and all of that. Let's get into some astrology dice. I think I'm like going hoarse because I really am having to shout over this rain. My voice is going hoarse. Oh, okay, that one almost fell off. So let me spin it again. 12th house. So we got double Pisces coming through as well as Pluto. Let me spin this again. The 6th house, Virgo. So we have that Pisces Virgo axis. So let's read it left to right, Virgo, starting with Virgo. Then we have Scorpio, Pisces. Virgo. Okay, so Virgo is that perfectionist. And one thing I've been thinking about with Virgo is how Venus is debilitated at Virgo. But from what I have heard from, it's in fall in Virgo, from a lot of Venus Virgos, is that they actually really love that placement. And me having a fellow debilitated Venus in Aries, I love my Venus placement. So I kind of can, and I also love Scorpio Venus. And I understand what Venus Virgos are saying when they say, I actually love this placement. And it's debilitated in Virgo because Venus is a planet of love, acceptance, partnership, but Virgo can be very critical. Virgo can be very nitpicky. But actually, what a lot of Venus Virgos say is, actually, I love that placement because there's so many red flags that I see my friends accepting. There's so many times when I see someone in my life and they're dating someone and they're a total loser. And me as a Venus Virgo, I would never do that. I'm very critical. And if you do something that's a red flag, if you do something I don't like, I'm going to pay attention. I'm going to notice that. And so maybe you find a lot of Venus Virgos, like they don't date a lot, or they're not settling early. They're waiting. Maybe they're marrying later in life because they kind of are waiting out, but when they do settle with their partner, it's like the perfect person. It's someone who is much more ticking all the boxes. It's someone who is much more giving and loving to them. And they're going to see those red flags in a way that Venus in Pisces, where it's exalted, might not, and might just kind of gloss over it and just see the good and not care about the fact that they're broke, unemployed, addicted to something. Venus in Virgo is going to notice it all. And that made a lot of sense to me because, again, I actually have a Venus debilitated, and I like the other Venus debilitation, Scorpio Venus. And I kind of think the Venus debilitate, well, a lot of the debilitations, I'm like, I don't know. There's good and bad in all of it. But Venus in Virgo, I was like, that makes a lot of sense because, yeah, how many people do you know, they have a partner, they'll say, oh my God, he's the most amazing guy ever. You meet him and you're like, he's horrible and he treats you really bad. And what the heck is going on? And you don't have to worry about that with Venus in Virgo. So I almost feel like this is a message for you. What's coming through with that is like paying attention to how you feel and almost being a little selfish, because Venus in Virgo can be a little selfish. It's a little bit more, I'm not going to see you through this perfect lens. I'm not going to give you that benefit of the doubt. I'm going to kind of criticize a little bit. And maybe that's a little uncomfortable, but maybe also it needs to be said. Maybe they're making valid points. You know what I mean? So I feel like for you, this is kind of about, being smart, being intelligent, and not overthinking, but thinking things through instead of thinking, oh, I'm just going to give this person 100% of the benefit of the doubt. You know what I mean? Then we have Pluto, and Pluto is that planet of intense change and transformation. Pluto obviously rules over Scorpio, and it really is that kind of like part of the chart that we don't want to necessarily look at. It rules literally over the genitalia and also like plumbing, waste, that kind of a thing. So a lot of times Pluto, Scorpio deals with things that the rest of us in society don't want to pay attention to. And I do feel like this is your message that, again, Pluto's also like transformational change. You guys have gone through so much change. That's a major thing that's coming through for you, is you have been willing to completely and totally shift who you are, step into a new paradigm, do that soul growth that maybe other people haven't wanted to do. Maybe take a hard look at things in yourself, in your own energy field, that other people would have shied away from. And what comes as a result of that deep work that Scorpios are willing to do, Pluto placements are willing to do, is living out different identities, coming into new eras in their life, existing as many different parts of themselves. And I feel like that's what you guys are really doing. Like right now you're in a certain era, but I am hearing that you are going to be stepping into an even more powerful era and you are going to be hugely rewarded again for the work you have been willing to do, the shadow work you guys have been willing to take on. And Pluto really deals with shadow work very strongly. So I feel like that's going to be your reward at the end of this. With Pisces, what's coming through is Pisces' amazing artistic ability, and the fact that they often develop these kind of creative hobbies. They often, when you talk to a Pisces, maybe they paint on the side, or they love to cook, or they love to draw, or they write stories, but oftentimes they have this need to express themselves creatively because they kind of live half on this plane, half up on the astral plane in the spiritual dimension and the creative world. So I feel like their imagination. So I feel like a lot of you guys are being called to fill your life up, do things that make you feel happy, fulfilled, joyful, and then accept and embrace the people in your life that are bringing you those feelings of joy, and blot out and be willing to remove the people that don't, the people that are stressing you out, the people that are making you feel bad about yourself. Really, Pisces loves to live in that world of happiness, joy, sunshine, rainbows, flowers, that kind of a thing. And I feel like this is your call, that that's exactly what you should be doing. You should be accepting the things that bring you joy and not really dealing with anything that is going to stress you out or anything that is making you feel negative, nasty, low vibrational. This is your call to step into the most magical, beautiful version of yourself and leave behind the things that are making you feel out of alignment, depressed, sad. Because pile number 4, you guys have such a beautiful, special energy. And I think what's coming through is just a need to embrace that, a need to step into that, and a need to move away from tolerating those things that take you for granted, don't appreciate you, don't accept you, make you question yourself. Those things are not for you, because you deserve so much better, pile 4. So that is what I have for you, pile number 4. I really hope that resonates. If it does, please let me know down in the comments. I'd love to hear from you guys. Also, make sure to give this reading a like if you enjoyed it. Hit the thumbs up. Subscribe, that really helps the channel. And if you want to see more of my content, head on over to my Patreon. I just posted a reading all about what people fantasize about you, so that's a fun, juicy, spicy one. And I also posted one all about what you're carrying from past lifetimes, that's a spiritual one. And another spicy one, what your sexiest quality is. But there are over 85 exclusive readings you'll only get access to when you sign up for Patreon. You will get also early and ad-free access to all my YouTube videos. So whether you're looking for a reading about love, money, career, spirituality, your personality, how people perceive you, tipsy readings, whatever you're looking for, you'll be able to find it over on Patreon. And like I said, also early access to all my YouTube videos. You also get to vote and suggest on new topics over on Patreon. So if all that sounds good to you and you're interested in signing up, head to the link underneath the timestamps in the comments and the description and join me on Patreon. Also, if you're interested in booking a private session with me, you can do that at my website, briarrosetarot.com. Whether you want to book a half-hour session, a full-hour session, a tarot reading, astrology reading, channeling session, pre-recorded reading, a live session, you will get lots of options to choose from on my website. Like I said, briarrosetarot.com, and the link for that is in my description. So thank you so much for watching, guys. I'm sending you so much love and light, and I will see you again very soon in another reading. Take care, guys, and I'll see you then. Bye.